Welcome to freedomlovin.com, where we focus on building freedom in an unfree world. Through personal development, location independence, and passive income strategies. Now here's your host, Kevin Cassel.
Welcome to Freedom Lovin'. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 61. And in just a minute, I'm going to play a chat that I had with the guys on the Walking the Earth podcast, and Justin and Mike. And we just decided to kind of have a chat. And they do a show that's a lot about travel and freedom and kind of some of the things that I talk about, and really had a fun time with those guys. They're great guys, and I think you'll enjoy the conversation that we had. We get into travel, we get into philosophy and dating and a bunch of other things. So it's a long one, so I want to keep this intro short. But we had a couple of iTunes reviews. I wanted to read those out. And the first one is from Kurt W70. And he says, "Freedom isn't free. 5 stars. I love Kevin's philosophy on what it means to really be free. His guests are knowledgeable and very informative. The Freedom Lovin' podcast is a show I feel we should all have on our smartphones. Excellent work, Kevin. Keep it coming." Well, thanks so much, Kurt. And I was on Kurt's show, the Lifestylepreneur podcast, that was back earlier this month. So if you want to check that one out, you can go back to freedomlovin.com and the last one, number 60, to listen to our chat. And the next review is from Magenta Wave, and he says, good stuff on traveling and lifestyle. 5 stars. Kevin combines location independence with the philosophy of real personal freedom and being a perpetual traveler. It's always interesting and useful. Well, thanks so much for your review. That is really helpful. And if anyone else wants to chip in and give a review here, just open up your iTunes and you can search for Freedom Lovin' Podcast and then click on it, and then you go to rating and review, and then you can type in everything with your 5 stars. So anyway, just really quickly, kind of an update here. I got back from Panama, about 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. And Panama, just a quick review on that. I had a mixture of fun and not so fun. And I think that one thing I discovered is that Panama and Central America in general are kind of tough to travel in, especially compared to Southeast Asia. But nothing is really set up for tourists. It's sort of like you're there and you just have to kind of find your way around. With Thailand and places like that, it's very easy and obvious what you need to do to get to somewhere else or to go on a trip, a little tour, whatever. It's very easy. Yeah, Central America is a little tough. So I started in Panama City, and I went up to this town in the mountains called Boquete, and it was raining and windy up there. Not actually cold, but rainy and windy the whole time, and so couldn't really do much. And then I decided I wanted to go to the beach, so I went over to Bocas del Toro, which is an island or group of islands off of the Caribbean coast of Panama, and some beautiful scenery on the way over. It was pretty amazing. Saw some rainbows and just a really nice area there. But yeah, Bocas del Toro, it actually rained almost the entire time I was there, and there weren't really any beaches. So the idea is you take boats over to other parts of the area. There's other islands that have nice beaches, but since it was raining, I wasn't really motivated to do that, and I stuck with just doing work and kind of hanging out in the hostel and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a little bit of a mix. I got back to Panama City there, I had a couple more days, and was kind of happy to get back to California. And so it was nice. It was nice to get out for a little bit, and it was nice to get back. And I talk a little bit about that also on this interview coming up, so I won't go too much on and on here. So anyway, really appreciate you listening. Love to hear your feedback. And I've got some other guests coming up on the show that I want to get to, and we'll try to keep them coming a little more often now. And I think that's about it. So without further ado, here is my interview or my chat with Justin and Mike from Walking the Earth. Take care. Have a great one. Go out there and build some freedom, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hello, and welcome to the crossover episode of Walking the Earth podcast and Freedom Lovin' podcast. I'm Justin Cassel, this week calling in from New York City, New York.
And I'm Mike Margolies. I am calling in today from Baltimore, Maryland. And Kevin Cascella, welcome to our show, and we're happy to be on yours too, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I was excited to be on your show, and I'm here in San Diego, California.
Awesome. Sweet.
Yeah, so we're all stateside right now, as it turns out.
Yeah, we're not so
travel podcasts where everyone's at home.
Yeah, it's not so exotic this time around, right?
It's a little wintry up here. The Juno storm kind of fizzled out to nothing.
Yeah.
No, it was still snow. It was about a foot of snow where I live, but further east it was way worse.
Actually, it's a little bit here. That's actually the twist on my end, though, is like I thought I was still going to be traveling like a few weeks ago, and I just literally did not get on the plane and just stayed around. And it's kind of like, for me, Kevin, have you had this kind of experience where like, I was traveling for a long time, and then in a weird way, when I came back, I just felt like I got reconnected kind of with home in a way I hadn't been before.
Oh, yeah. It makes everything seem a lot nicer at home when you've traveled for a while. And you get back, it's like, wow, I really did miss this. And you got off the plane, or you didn't take your plane purposely, or you just...
Yeah, it was intentional. I mean, well, truth be told, I still can take the flight. I have it was booked with like miles, and so I can take it later as long as I take it within a year. So I guess delayed it, really.
Yeah.
But it was like the day before the flight, and I was supposed to hop on and go to Indonesia, and then kind of, I don't know, I was really torn. Like I still really love Southeast Asia a lot, but I found I wanted to be close to my family and friends for a while that I hadn't seen for, I'd been here for a couple of months, and it wasn't enough yet to, get back on the road. So
it's really a weird thing because I don't know, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, I said I'm a permanent traveler. That's my lifestyle. It's a permanent traveler, perpetual tourist, whatever you want to call it, PT. That's what I was. That's what I'm excited about. But in my mind, also, I wasn't thinking like I just want a permanent. Like that's just hopping from city to city and country to country, because that can be annoying after a while. And
that was absolutely, man.
Yeah, and like I love the seeing new things, but then it's really nice to come back to something like where you have sort of a home base and you've got like a group of friends and family, whatever whatever your comfort is, and be able to do that. I think that I would really feel like I was missing out if I just did like I don't know if you guys know Wandering Earl or some of these guys that are just like
they just go forever.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree with you more, man. Like I'll tell you, I would trade the experience for nothing. Like that, the solo backpacking experience, there's nothing like it. But yeah, after a while, you kind of want some stability in your life. So
that's awesome. And Kevin, I wanted to say, like, you've been traveling for a while, and I know that you recently went to Colombia, and I think you went on another trip. Like, do you find yourself going on shorter trips now as opposed to like a longer extended escapade, I suppose?
That's kind of it's a good question, because I sort of thought about that about a year ago, and I was like, I don't know if I really want to do all these really long, like 3-6 month trips or whatever, or live in other places. I kind of decided this year that I would take more shorter, like 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there type of thing. And so far, I'm pretty happy with it. That's what I've been doing this for since the beginning of 2014. Yeah, I really like it. It's just going out somewhere and still being able to do work on the road, not being like, oh, I'm on vacation for 2 weeks, which is what everybody, of course, says.
Right. So you can travel more than just the allotted 2 weeks you're given by some employer or whatnot.
Yeah.
Right. But you're coming back to San Diego not because you only have 2 weeks, but because you want to have a base.
Exactly. And I actually feel like you guys were talking about earlier, is the idea of things kind of seem fresh when you get back, and it's like San Diego to me is pretty much it's kind of a paradise. But if I stay here, if I'm only here, I kind of don't really appreciate it. And then when I leave and come back, then I'm like, wow, this place is really amazing.
Yeah, and for me, it's like I just feel like my heart is kind of torn. I think if you ask me what I prefer, like lifestyle-wise, I mean, for me, hands down, the lifestyle in a place like Chiang Mai, Thailand is second to none. And if I could have, the only problem is it's the other side of the world. So, and so, this big part of me like feels like I really belong there. Yet, this is where I grew up. This is where my family is, my friends, and so I guess where I'm at now is like, well, I'll go back when I kind of get recharged. Like, once I get my fill, and maybe I'll have the experience you had, Kevin, where I'm like, I'm here for too long, and I'm like, all right, then not as exciting anymore or something. And then when I'm ready,
do you guys do? I know both of you guys have traveled quite a bit, but have you done a lot of long-term stays in like U.S. cities outside of New York?
Outside of New York, not really. I mean, I've visited San Fran, I've visited L.A. and other parts of the U.S., but not really. No.
Yeah, I lived in DC area and in Houston. That was when I was like working. I don't know if you mean like was I living, and I wasn't doing extended stay in the same way you would like when I was in Thailand, for example. I was just working a typical job, and the most I've done as far as staying somewhere and just kind of really just taking the time to explore within the U.S. was maybe a week or so in somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's one thing that I've sort of a couple of years ago decided that was sort of a compromise. Like I really wanted to live in the mountains. That was one of I've never lived in the mountains.
Yeah, I love mountains, man.
Yeah, and so I decided to go to Colorado for 3 months, and I'm like, I could easily do Colorado for 3 months, and I'm not a winter person, so I went in the summer when it's nice and warm. But yeah, and then
I'm really thinking about doing that actually. So maybe I'll have to get some tips from you. Colorado's nice in the summertime.
It's awesome in the summer. Yeah, it rains a little bit more than I thought. Like I was surprised that pretty much almost every day it comes down. Like in the afternoon, thunderstorm rolls in. It rains for like an hour or two, and then it's done. But the temperatures are great. I mean, it's really nice, and there's a lot to do. I mean, it's beautiful. There's tons of hiking and biking and like whatever. It's it's really a cool place.
That's awesome. How long were you out there?
Yeah, just for 3 months. I went in June, and I was like kind of just open to whatever happened. I went to Boulder, and I was going to come back after 2 months because I wasn't really. I mean, it was nice. Like I said, it was a lot of stuff to do, but I was kind of feeling like Boulder wasn't really for me. Like that city. I mean, I like Colorado in general, but I wasn't crazy about Boulder because it's sort of like a college town. And it's sort of a suburb. It's sort of like a big, like kind of a suburb. And it's like if you're not in college or raising kids, it's sort of a weird place to be, I think.
I see. I'm curious. Like, I know I used to live in Syracuse for about 5 years before I moved to New York City. And a lot of the folks that were living in Syracuse were talking about Colorado is where I want to go. Colorado is where I want to be. I don't know if that's just like an East Coast thing. Like, Colorado's, very... it's very cutting edge. They're very cutting edge with like laws. They've got snowboarding and a lot of very progressive things there.
Legalized marijuana?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They allow weed. They allow that out there.
It's like that goes with the same attitude, though, right? That it's like kind of a relaxed environment that people are pretty progressive and laid back. That's the sense I have of it. I've only been myself also out there for ski trips and whatnot, but
I mean, I've never been, but that's kind of the mentality or in the lore, I guess, for people like myself who've never been there. Do you feel like that's the case on the West Coast also? Like that, like it's a common feeling of a lot of people?
Yeah, that's why I stay in California, because people tend to go west to start their lives over or to start something. And so it's sort of like it started with the whole gold rush thing in the 1840s, I guess. And everybody came west because the gold was out in California. And so a lot of people just kind of come here, and it's like anything goes, whatever you want to do, it's all good. And people, you could come out here to be a beach bum, or you come out here and start, a startup business, or, I mean, it's just kind of like, I feel like there's a lot of looking towards the future here. And then there's just a lot of, like you said, like kind of relaxed and a lot of tolerance, I guess would be the word.
Right. Yeah, the West Coast has that same kind of vibe, I think, that Colorado is sort of known for in a sense.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I don't know the laws. I think you can, as far as like my lifestyle goes, you can set up freedom no matter where you are. You can kind of make your life free, and no matter what the laws are or whatever, it doesn't really matter. And that's kind of been my philosophy, is like just build your own freedom. Don't wait for other people. Don't necessarily move somewhere just because like, oh, it's a little bit more free over here. It's like you can still do that.
Actually, I love that, man. That's actually a better way of phrasing kind of the things I was going through emotionally myself. Because, in my head, it's like I had this idea of I love the lifestyle, right? The freedom I had when I was out backpacking. And then, like, right before I got on this flight, I was thinking to myself, well, wait, maybe I can make that same kind of freed lifestyle, here in the U.S. If I maybe just try for it, I can do that and do it here, establish a base. Not that I'm still going to be traveling more, but instead of looking for a new base,
Right.
why don't I make the base right here, the place I already have it?
Exactly. And I think I've exhausted like almost everywhere now. I haven't been to Eastern Europe, but I've been to a lot of places where I'm like, well, maybe this would be the spot to settle down in. But it's like you really just come back. It's like you're still living your same life, even if you're in a place that's like different and cool and laid back and more free or something. But yeah, so Mike, what did you think about Chiang Mai? Like, what was it that you liked about it? That you said that you saw yourself staying there for a while.
Yeah, so I did actually end up spending, I think it's 3 or 4 months there in this. And I was out of the country for about 15 months total, of which 3 or 4 of them were in Chiang Mai. And what I loved about it was, obviously the cost of living is a huge factor for sure. That can't be. It's
well, you can beat it because you can go to Cambodia and live for like half the price of Chiang Mai.
Yeah, I guess there are there are definitely parts of Cambodia that can be cheap, or India. Go to live in Goa or something,
That's
right?
true.
And you get you're right. There are even cheaper ones that relative to say where I am now, though in the U.S. I'm finding it's a lot pricier, and also just things like getting around are more difficult,
Right.
And maybe that just comes down to price too, because I could find a tuk-tuk or whatever, and here I can still Uber around everywhere. It just costs me 10 times the price. So that's a big factor. I felt like Chiang Mai was it is that a kind of a relaxed. It just felt like a lot more relaxed. There's a lot less pressure, and you just kind of have freedom and space to kind of do your thing, and there at the same time as you had this freedom, and I was able to get things done. You can meet a lot of people, a lot of other, the digital nomad folks in the co-working spaces, so that you could get stuff done, but also have this relaxed lifestyle for a low cost of living, all these kind of factors. And it's also just interesting being in Asia, this place that's vastly different. And I liked it as I was going along. I learned a little bit more Thai. Not that I can speak any conversational Thai at this point, but as I learned a little bit more, started to pick up on a little bit more things and learning more. Just it's an interesting place to be,
Yeah.
Have you been out there?
Yeah. I did about 3 weeks in Chiang Mai in 2013. So
cool.
Yeah, I was the same way. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. It was one of those things like you come from Bangkok where it's just absolute insanity. And the traffic is probably the worst in the world.
I hate Bangkok so much.
I do too. I really hate Bangkok. I mean, other than the fact that it seems like a really safe big city. Like I always feel safe there, and maybe I'm just being naive, but it seems.
I always just feel like lost there. Man.
It's just massive concrete
Yeah.
and buildings. I mean, I don't really know. I know some people like Bangkok, and I know even there's a lot of digital nomads that hang out around Bangkok, but I don't get it. I don't understand. It's like it's one of the hottest places on earth, I think, with the humidity.
Yeah. The other thing, though, I mean, for me, I think I also just tend to be a guy who's more into the small towns than the big cities.
Right.
And whether it's Bangkok or New York City or whatever, like I think for me personally, the smaller towns speak to me in the sense that like you get to be, I don't know, there's just this warmth to people when there's less people.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's nicer. And so, when I tried living in Saigon, in Vietnam, which is another hub, for these digital nomads, I tested that out because I'd heard good things about it. And I had a great experience there for all these different reasons. But ultimately, it was like, well, for me, Chiang Mai was a better fit, And so
I did this.
Maybe Baltimore's not a bad place for me then. It's not. It's still a city, but it's smaller than big city. Some of the bigger ones.
Yeah, it's funny. I had the same experience with Saigon. I did about a month there, and I was like, okay, got it. I think it was kind of cool, but definitely not somewhere I could stay for very long. And yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's so crowded and polluted, and it's just like, no thanks.
Yeah. is big cities just freak me out sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I submit myself to this torture of living in New York. I'm crazy.
Well, you're in the center, dude, for like what you're trying to do in the comedy scene,
Yeah.
So you're in the thick of it. And I'm not saying that big cities are a terrible thing. I'm not trying to like make a judgment on all big cities are bad, but I think for me personally, it's just I'm a smaller town kind of guy.
Right. I'm just giving you guys shit. But you know,
fair enough.
But you got to spend time if you really want to meet people in a city. You need to be in a city for a while.
It takes longer.
It takes longer. And we were talking, Kevin, to Leon Logothetis, who traveled the world by motorbike, and he did it. I don't know if you're familiar with this story.
I listened to part of that show, actually. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
So for people who haven't heard it, he basically traveled around the world on a yellow motorbike, didn't bring any money or food, and only relied on the kindness of strangers to get him around the world. And I found it, he said the same thing. It's the cities are kind of difficult, but there's still people there that helped him along the way. But, in these smaller towns and other places, like there's just, I guess they're a little bit more receptive because of the culture, I suppose, small town versus big city, hustle bustle.
Yeah. Well, if you're in a big city, it's just obviously you have to shut people off.
Right.
It's just kind of, I think it's just a natural thing that happens.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a tough balance because you want to be in the kind of the action, but because if you go too far out, then it's like not being anybody. But
exactly.
Yeah, that was like an adjustment for me coming back to the U.S. too. We talked about this a couple episodes back where it was just, being used to people being so receptive as to a stranger when I'm the stranger versus when you're coming back into the U.S. and into big cities, then it's not the same. I think what you said is, I think Justin, you were saying this, that like you can make really good connections. It just takes longer. You just have to invest more, and then
definitely,
and then maybe it's a better payout. Ultimately, as if you're living a transient lifestyle and you're backpacking, you're going to meet so many people so easily. It's like the easiest thing in the universe when you're backpacking to make friends, but they're ultimately transient relationships. There's two sides to the coin. Whereas back home, it's harder to meet people than that maybe, but when you do, those relationships go deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Kevin, I was curious. This might be a 180 or whatnot, but so you were in Australia, and you were married, and you read a book, and that kind of spurred you into, this whole freedom movement, I guess, of getting out there and doing things that you wanted to do. Is that a good way to summarize that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was already kind of on that mindset because that's why we actually went to Australia, because it was like, we can do it. We both had jobs, or she had a job, I had a business that we could travel with. So that was kind of how we ended up going to Sydney. But yeah, I think reading that book was really eye-opening. It's called How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World, because I think my focus then was like about all the things that aren't free. And how, everything's limited, and we shouldn't have to do this, and why do I have to do this and that, and like, it'll drive you nuts because there's so many parts of life that you could look at as like, that person's stopping me from being free, and this situation here is stopping me from being free. But ultimately, you can control at least some of that, and the more you can do on your own is in terms of creating freedom. Obviously, the more free you're going to be. So. That's really what the book did, is it made me kind of wake up to like, look, I'm in control of a lot more than I think I am. And that's what I think a lot of people don't really realize. And it can be anything from like the situation you grew up in. Some people think, this is how I grew up. This is how I'm always going to be. Like, how could I change? But they really can change, and they don't see it. And so, and to something like people that are really into like political movements, they don't realize that this isn't going to change. They aren't going to become happier because they got involved in this political group, but they think they are. So it's like, it's really, it's really something.
That's a really interesting. I appreciate that perspective a lot, because we do tend to look at something negative, like who's holding me back, and fight it. Yep. And I think there's something to say for rather than instead of fighting against something that's wrong, you can try to build something positively that's good, So I dig that view, man.
I dig that viewpoint. I dig that viewpoint also. I think it can be applied to relationships. Don't fight.
Absolutely.
Don't fight something that's
Yeah. Well, we all try to. Yeah.
It's like you're trying to change the person that you're with to exactly what you want. It's like,
You
how
know,
often is that going to work?
That
Well,
does
we're always trying to find the bad guy, right? Like,
right.
and it's very easy when you're looking to like find a bad guy. Like, this person's oppressing me. This person's not giving me my freedom. You can always find this person's an asshole. You're always going to find an asshole.
Yeah.
You're always going to find the bad guy. But I think the more difficult thing is just to, not always fight all those fights and maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I always try to look internally to myself. Like, okay, where's the bad guy inside of me that I can make better?
Right.
So I work on that.
Definitely. And I think that's definitely a thing that once you travel the world, I think it makes you, or at least talking to you guys are very relaxed people. I feel like can get along with a lot of different folks. So I think that'd be hard because there's so many relationship options, and you're constantly going all these different places. Like, it's how do you meet somebody that's you'd give it all up for, I guess, or maybe you don't give it up.
You mean as a traveler?
Yeah, maybe you don't give it up.
I don't think you give it up. I don't know.
It's along with you that inspires you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin, I'll let you kind of chime in on this too. But for me, I would say someone I'm compatible with is probably going to have a similar mindset to me anyway, and want to travel and do these things also.
Yeah. That's the thing is, I think that you really just need to look for people that have, like you said, mindset. It's like the growth mindset. Are you growing, or are you just stagnant? And
yes, that's a real good way to put it too. Yeah,
and it's like you can definitely find people that travel that have that. I think that's a really great place to go. But yeah, it's tough when you're really, and that's the other reason to cut back and not be like on the road constantly. But to date anybody, I mean, how do you do that when you're like, I'm here for 3 months and then I'm gone, and then I'm off for another place for 2 months, and it's tough. But there's a guy, Colin Wright. You guys know who that is?
I'm not familiar.
Colin, I think that's his name. I interviewed him on my podcast. Yeah, he's been doing this stuff for a long time too, and he travels and writes books and does that kind of thing. And yeah, we got talking about that, and he just has this kind of attitude. It's like, yeah, I'm just straight up front about it right away, and I'm like, yeah, I'm only going to be here for 2 months, so
right.
It's and I guess that has its advantages and disadvantages too. So
right,
sure. Well, for me, I still have this fantasy now. Like, I've done this solo backpacking thing for a while, and now it would be cool in some future day, whatever it is, whether it's in a few months or a few years or whatever. If I'm like in some relationship with someone who I really love and feel connected to, and then we go do it together, because and that would be a different experience. That would also be awesome, and maybe it would take away from some of what's difficult about the backpacking experience when you're kind of. What ultimately it's in is the transience makes loneliness feeling. But if you're with someone the whole time, maybe that's a whole different thing. Right. You probably want to go home eventually to a base at some point, but still. But yeah, I think that'd be cool too.
Kevin, have you seen Janipur?
No, I don't think so.
It's a movie about a guy. It's Tom Allen, is that right, Mike?
Yep.
Who travels around. He basically goes on a world journey, and then he meets a love of his life along the way. It's a documentary that he did himself, and then they wind up biking together and keep traveling together.
Is there a spoiler alert we need to put here?
Yes. pretty much everything that I just said.
That sounds pretty awesome, though.
It's still a great movie, and you should definitely see that. Like, have you been in that position? Have you been in the position that Mike's talking about and that movie kind of references?
Like traveling with someone?
Yeah, have you met somebody to travel with?
I tend to travel better solo. I'm actually planning.
It's easier.
I'm actually planning a trip right now with somebody, but it is easier. Yeah, it's much easier to travel solo because I actually went on my first really big solo trip. I was planning on going to Bali and just kind of like cruising around Southeast Asia and not really having any plan. And a female friend here wanted to go with me after she heard about my idea, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I wasn't like dead set on anything. And then we got there and we really didn't get along at all. It was really a bad match.
Wow.
Yeah, someone to travel with.
I don't want to get into the details, but do you think it was a product of the environment, or there was an underlying like thing from the beginning, and it just this exposed it? Being under pressure exposed it.
Exactly. The second part was definitely more of it than anything, and I still don't know. I'm not friends with this person anymore, but I don't know what it was. But yeah, she did. I mean, in my perspective, she really couldn't handle making a decision together. And it just got to where it was like she just kind of blew up on me one day, and I'm like, okay. And she's like, "Oh, I'm leaving." And so it was like, okay,
Wow.
I guess we're not traveling together. That's fine. I was actually really happy. I mean, I was like, okay, well, like go ahead, that's fine. And the next day, I woke up and I was like, wow, I'm so happy. And the trip was. Yeah.
You reminded me of the scene in Austin Powers too. After what's her face is a fembot. And he goes, wait a tick, I'm single again.
Vanessa.
Yeah.
Vanessa's a fembot.
Yeah. But it's tough. I mean, I had such a good time traveling around solo that, I mean, I was there for like 2.5 months, all over Southeast Asia, and I just would never have wanted it another way. I just could not imagine being with somebody for that long, just trying to make group decisions. And it's just so much easier when you can go, you go somewhere and whatever your feeling is about the place, you can just make a decision. You're like, okay,
Yes.
I love this place. I want to stay here for like 3 more days at least. Or
Right.
you're just like, nah, I'm kind of not into it. I'm just going to leave tomorrow. Whereas
Yeah.
you have someone else there, they're going to have their own opinion. Like, well, why do you want to leave?
You have
Or
to
why
make
do you want to
decisions
stay?
together and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe I think the way, if and when this happens for me, I kind of envision it like it would be flexible, so you'd be together, but maybe sometimes you go off on your own little adventures and then
Yeah.
you reconverge,
Yeah.
I think that would be like maybe a healthy way to approach it, probably.
Yeah, that sounds ideal. I don't know anyone that's
Yeah.
actually pulled that off, but
Well,
I think I've met people that do that actually, because I met like some couples and I was in Cambodia, and then like I met just the one guy. They were still like together as far as I knew, and I met the one guy by himself later, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna meet up later." So I think there are people that
Mike,
can pull that off.
What about when our friend Justin went and visited you? Didn't he do that? Didn't he?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So our a friend of Cassel and I, his also Justin Shunik. He came to Thailand to visit me for a couple weeks, and that's basically how it operated. When he came, we were hanging out together, but we weren't attached to the hip. He
Right.
went off on some of his own adventures, and I went off on some of my own. I was kind of living in Chiang Mai, so I had like different activities I was into, and so. Yeah, that's exactly how we did it. We were hanging out. We saw each other pretty much. I think we saw each other every day. I think, and hung out a very large part of the time. But we weren't always together.
Yeah. Sounds like a theme park,
Yeah.
We're meeting up at 3 p.m.
Well, you don't even. Well, that's the thing is you don't even schedule the time you meet up necessarily. You just say, all right, well, we'll stay in touch and then reconvert. It's like that's the thing that's tough is there's so much. I'm used to not having to plan, and now I have to plan again.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you feel that? Yeah. Is this for you also, Kevin, in the U.S. that you're planning more than you would?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, everything's. Yeah, a lot of things are much more planned. But yeah, I was going to say I did 2 trips in the last couple of months. One I went to Colombia, and I went with 2 friends. Actually, one pretty good friend. The other one is kind of like not a super close friend or anything. And that was one where we had to plan, and it was not what I'm used to. Worked out pretty well. One guy was a little bit more uptight than I would want, but it worked out pretty well. We had a good time. We had a really fun time, and we got to split the cost, which is nice, and got to stay in nicer places and stuff like that. But then the next trip I did was Panama, and I was solo, and it's like there were some things that I did miss about having people with me. It's like just being able to say, just refer to people and go, oh, this just happened and that happened, and it's like. When you're solo, you just don't have that kind of reference. You're just kind of like, oh, okay.
Right.
And if you have a bad day, you're just kind of stuck in it. So,
yeah, that part's tough actually. Yeah, when you're traveling solo and you're in a bad place, you don't necessarily have like the support network there.
Yeah.
And you can make friends, but you don't want to like start a friendship with someone just talking about some negative thing.
yeah, exactly. So, what about you guys? Have you had any like really challenging experiences like on the road or?
In challenging in what sense?
Yeah, I just
you mean like traveling with people or
no,
like...
I meant like just in like getting stuck somewhere or something bad happens and you're like, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah, I've had some challenging experiences. Got kind of conned in India with a phone, and that's it makes me angry to tell the stories. I don't want to go too much into it, but the moral of the story was I got conned and I was trying to fix a phone. It didn't. The guy was trying to scam me, but ultimately you just kind of learn. All right, this happened. It's okay. Roll with it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So those kind of things happen. But I've also had experiences where maybe I was supposed to meet up with someone in a certain city, and you turn up there, and then like they're not there. And this case, it's happened a couple times in India where the city I would show up to wouldn't have great connectivity or internet. And so then I'd be stuck, and the internet's only available from this short window during the day, and you you don't get in touch with them. You don't know where they are. You don't know what to do. And so when I guess it would bother me when I did make a plan and then I wasn't able to meet up with the people I was trying to meet up with, and that would be frustrating, I guess. But then you'd figure it out. It always works out at the end.
Yeah.
So
the one I don't have many travel experience, or not nearly as many as Mike. I've only gone overseas once, and I went to Israel on birthright, and I stayed in a hostel, and that was fine. But then I stayed at some, I guess it was off the beaten path hotel, and got some stuff stolen. I had a camera stolen, a cell phone stolen. That really upset me. But then, like you said, Mike, you just gotta. Yeah. You realize it's gone. I'm not getting it back. It really sucked. I was really upset because there were some amazing photos that on there. And I just bought the camera before the trip. Don't ever buy a camera right before a trip.
No.
And nowadays your phone is your camera, I feel like.
Yeah.
As a minimalist traveler, I think a smartphone is actually the greatest thing you can travel with.
Yeah.
Like right? It's like it's your camera, it's your MP3 player, it's your internet device, it's like and your pocket.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Yeah, I think as far as that stuff goes, like I just expect every place I go, I'm going to get ripped off once. There's always going to be a time where I get ripped off. Just hopefully it's not a horrible, like I don't get a bunch of money stolen, but it's like there's always, is every country you go to, there's always scammers. And like when I went to Saigon, I just remember I stepped out of my hotel the next morning and I had no idea about anything. I was looking at my phone, looking at my map, obviously, and some guy pulled up on his bike and offered me a ride, and I'm like, nah, I don't think so. And then he actually was able to talk me into it.
Oh wow!
And no money, not like, oh, I want. I'm like, how much do you want? And he's like, oh no, we'll figure it out later. Which of course is the worst thing.
Oh my god! never do that.
So I got so he drove me outside of town to like across the river, and then he's like, yeah, we're gonna go on this boat. It's really cheap. And it was like $30 US. And I'm like, that doesn't sound that cheap. And he's like, oh yeah, it's the best deal. It's way more if you do it with the tour company. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound so great. But he was taking me there, so I went and I got on the boat. It was this old rickety boat that, like, I don't know. They took me around.
Did you pay him the $30?
Yeah. So they took me around. Him and his buddy took me in this boat, and they went around like just this little part of the river, and they came back, and he's like, okay, I need the money now. What? And it was like 60 total US, and I'm like,
$60?
No way, this is crazy. And I told him, like, that's crazy. I'm not paying you. This is not worth it. And we're standing there arguing, and I'm like, I don't know this city. I don't know what he's going to do. And plus, I don't even know, like, I need to ride back to town. So I said, okay, I don't have the money, but take me to an ATM and I'll pay you. And so that's...
Well,
I see. He took you for a ride, literally.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, that story, what makes me think about is like, yeah, that's going to happen, right? You're going to get ripped off. And that's way more than anything should cost there, right? Like $30 is like a whole days of everything expenses.
Yeah.
More than that, like for your accommodation and your food and your beer, whatever.
Right.
Like, so if you paid like $60 or something, he obviously was scamming you. But at the same time, I'm thinking about that now. I'm like, well, at least when you get taken for a ride in Southeast Asia, it's, only for something like $60.
Yeah,
it's not, so at least when you do get scammed, it's not like a tremendous amount.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing and there's nothing happened. I didn't like lose any limbs or, nothing really horrible.
Right.
Cool.
I had that story also reminds me of a run-in in Saigon I had. I was walking down the street. I think I was just trying to find another District 1, and I was looking around for another bar or something, and these two lady boys on motorbike came by, and they start kind of saying, hey, calling out to me, and I'm like, no, thank you, no, thank you. And one actually literally got off and starts walking toward me. At this point, I got really freaked out. I literally did a 180, just turn around and walk the other direction. I didn't know this person. She's gonna like beat me up or whatever. It was.
Was it a big lady boy?
It was a dude, just a dude-sized person.
Yeah.
No, but I don't know what they have and what their whole. It was just very uncomfortable.
Okay.
I felt like I was gonna get robbed or something.
Right.
That was gonna happen.
Yeah, that could get kind of ugly. Yeah, I remember my first night in Thailand. I just grabbed this little hotel right on the beach. And I walked out, and it was kind of late at night, and I was super tired, and I just wanted to sleep. And I walked out onto my balcony, And I look down, and there's these girls like waving at me, and they're like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Yeah, come down and have a drink with us." And I'm like,
To be true.
"No, I'm good. I'm actually just going to go to sleep right now." And then I went to bed thinking, "Wow, the girls are friendly here."
Bro, yeah. Yeah,
And then,
first
of
time
course-
I ever went.
Yeah.
And of course, they
Right,
extorted
of
you for
course.
money.
Well, that's
No,
I had the same reaction though.
Well, let him finish. Wait, what
Go
happened?
ahead.
The next day, I saw the one that was talking, and it was a ladyboy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the same. The first time I was in Southeast Asia was actually it was a business trip to Singapore, and I remember thinking like I was just walking down the bars, and these every bar there's girls just calling to you like hey hey, and I'm like wow, girls are really friendly here, And then you come to learn later like yeah, they're a prostitute or they're a ladyboy, the ones that are calling to you, or both or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like the girls are not normally aggressively pursuing dudes. This is not just a thing in Southeast Asia where girls just aggressively pursue dudes. They have.
I think there's a fantasy for a lot of guys that there's some place in the world that it's all like the girls are all just going out of their way to pursue guys.
Right.
But
It's got to be.
it still is.
anywhere-
It's kind of fun though because it's like you just kind of feel like a rock star sometimes. You're just walking down like there's all these girls calling at you. You're like oh, okay,
Right.
it's still.
Yeah.
And our friend Yoel that was on the episode on our show actually said he was living in Hong Kong and that he's an African American guy and they do go after you like legitimately, like girls were interested in him and things like that. But have you come across like other places that you've traveled where it wasn't like a scam or somebody extorting for money? Like legitimate like interest from the ladies.
I think there is legitimate interest. If you're like a foreigner in these countries, like there is legitimate interest, like because you're different, and also there is an extra element of because you're coming from a Western country, you're obviously coming from a place where you probably have more money than they do. So that I'm not saying that factors in with everybody, but that can be a factor. So you can find the whole range, I would say, like girls that are interested because they think maybe of money, girls that are legitimately interested because they think you're interesting, or girls that just think you're different, and girls that are prostitutes. I think you can find the whole range of interactions.
Yeah, it is kind of like when you go to Vietnam, or I don't know about like probably the same in Thailand, but when you go to Vietnam, it's like the tables are turned somewhat if you're a white male.
Right.
It is very different than being in the U.S. in dating.
Yeah.
It's like it's not up to the guy to make the first move in any stage. So you go to a bar and the girls there, at least my experiences, they come up and start talking, which is not at all my experience in the US. It's more like they wait for you to come up. So
Right. And these are people with legitimate interest in talking with you.
yeah.
And like these are mainly Southeast Asian cultures, or there other places as well, like South America.
I don't know. Mike, do you want to comment on that?
I don't have enough experience in South America to say. I was in Peru for a couple of weeks, mainly in the Amazon, trying to find myself with ayahuasca. But so I didn't have much experience there as far as like picking up girls. But
Seems like such a trivial subject now that I'm thinking about it. But
I mean, I don't know. I think it varies. Also, I wouldn't want to generalize like the region. I mean, I think there was a lot of differences country to country. From what I experienced, I found that in general, in countries, in say Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, I thought there was just generally a bigger distance between foreigners and local people. And it's not like, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but I just found as a foreigner, I had a difficult time connecting with more local people versus Vietnam. It was like a complete different experience. In Vietnam, just in general, and it's not just girls, just in general, people were interested in me as a Westerner, like wanted to know about, just know about me, were interested. And so I think so as far as just people and girls or whatever, it varies country to country, at least from what I experienced, who was interested in you because you're a Westerner, who puts a wall in front of you because you're a Westerner.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree about that. Like Thailand is a closed country. Like they do not care about what goes on beyond the borders of Thailand. It's very much, it's kind of like a North Korea. A lot of people don't realize it. It's kind of like a North Korea where they just are like, whatever the king says, that's what's happening. And we don't really, and this is, of course, this is generalizing, and there are obviously exceptions to this, but
Right.
that's the general thing. There is like there's just not a lot of interest in outside of Thailand, but in Vietnam it was a lot different, a lot more
Yeah.
interest, and yeah, I think that you said that right, and yeah, I mean it really just kind of depends on where you are. Like Colombia, I found was pretty friendly, and I don't speak very good Spanish, so I was trying to communicate to a lot of people in English, and they were still pretty receptive, So
Cool.
Yeah, and kind of to add on to that, say talking about Thailand, for example, there is definitely a bigger barrier. Although I did find, as I kind of alluded to earlier, once I spent more time there, and it just takes more effort as a foreigner. Like in Vietnam, they're going to be outwardly like trying to talk to a foreigner, but in Thailand, it's like the foreigner who needs to make more effort. And I can't say that's wrong either. Like, hey, it's your country, right? So I did find, though, as I slowly could learn a few more things, that it became easier over time to then meet Thai people.
have you been to Bali?
I have not, and I always hear awesome things about it. I was supposed to go to Indonesia. That's the flight that I didn't get on. Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, so I mean, what you're saying as far as people being friendly or not, I mean, Bali, it takes the cake. They're the most friendly by far, and well, along with maybe Cambodia, but Bali is it's everybody seems to want to know about you. It's like everywhere you go, somebody's asking you, where are you from, and sometimes, of course, they're trying to sell you something, but a lot of times it's just sort of that's their natural way is being curious. They're kind of brought up to ask people questions. That's what I've heard anyway. It's like they really embrace tourists. They like tourists. They want to know where you're from. They want to know, like, they really want to know about you. And it's really, and a lot of them, most people speak English there, or at least some English. So it's like they want to connect with you, it's really different. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of fall in love with Bali, because you just get this great experience, and everywhere you go, it seems like somebody's like, trying to make your day, and it's just really a happy kind of place.
That's sweet.
Awesome. I've only ever heard good things about Bali. Well, I still have that flight to take this year, so I think I'm gonna. It's the flight's to KL actually, but from KL I can hop on a cheap AirAsia flight to Indonesia, and I think maybe Indonesia 2015 might still happen for me. You want to come with me, Justin?
I would love to go, but we got to go to Cambodia too, because I really
Well,
want
you
to
can
go
go.
there.
Well, it's like we were talking about. Maybe we'll be together, then kind of split off and reconverge. That's how you do it, man.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm shooting for 6 months from now. I hope that listeners will be satisfied that I fulfill my objective. Try to get somewhere new and fresh. Because all I hear is all these awesome stories. I'm like I'm like the kid brother. You know what I'm saying? Like you guys are playing Super Mario, and I just want to play with you guys.
Yeah. So what are you, Justin? Are you working right now? You said you have a full-time job.
Yeah, I'm working full time in the city. I work in the construction market, and I sell building control systems that basically, for new construction or renovation, we control the heating and air conditioning systems for all these residential and commercial buildings. And pretty much you think of it, we've worked with it. Like anything from Yankee Stadium to the MoMA to Museum of Natural History. My company that I work for does like the heating and air conditioning. So if you don't like it, then if it's too hot, then I guess you have us to blame.
Okay.
Yeah. And besides that comedy thing, I'm pursuing improv and taking classes at different comedy theaters, and filming some sketches, which hopefully will be out soon that people can see. So keep an eye out for that, guys.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think what I appreciate, and just some context for Kevin, for you, and like your listeners are like, I think Justin, what you bring out is like that perspective of I'll come out, or I guess we have some fucking crazy story, and I think it's nice to have the backdrop of a perspective from you of like, okay, here's the things that are, as someone back in the States, like what I think is, wow, that is an out there kind of thing. I think I appreciate that element. And all that said, I'm hoping that you've been, over the course of doing this show, been getting somewhat indoctrinated that you want to travel yourself some more.
Definitely.
Right on. So what happens in 6 months then? Can you take off at that point, or?
Yeah, my objective is to have funds saved up and vacation ready to go to take off for at least, you said it earlier, that the 2-week vacation, and it sounds so bad. I really want to take longer if I can, but I want to take 2 weeks and at least go to Southeast Asia and maybe meet up with Mike wherever he is in the world at that point.
Yeah, I'm banging the drum for Justin to take off like a month or two and try out the kind of more extended travel thing. It's something I know that, things we've touched on a little bit, but not in great depth. But I know for you, Justin, a big part of the reason why you haven't been able to necessarily go and do a longer term backpacking is you've got these student debts and things like this going on. For most people, I think, I would say to people like, oh, I can't quit my job to go backpacking. Like I have all these things. Most of your bills go away, right? Like if you're traveling, you're either renting out your place or not renting anymore. You're slimming down your belongings,
right?
And you don't have electricity bills. Those kind of bills for the most part go away, and travel to places like Southeast Asia and India does become affordable in a way that most people don't realize that it is.
Right.
But I know. In your case, though, you've got this like student debt, and I know that's a crushing one. I don't know, Kevin. Do you have any thoughts on what someone like Justin could do to get out there?
Yeah, move to Chiang Mai and don't rent anything in New York.
Well, what do you do about the student debt? That's the big issue, because you can get rid of the other bills, the apartment and the electricity, all these things. But that's one I don't know a good answer to be completely honest.
I don't either. I listen to. Do you guys know who James Altucher is?
Yes, I love him.
Okay, he talks about this stuff.
I'm not as familiar with James.
He talks about this stuff.
Yeah, he would probably recommend not going to school, but it's kind of too late for that.
Well, there is something in this day and age. There's something to say for it, in that you can learn most things from the internet, and for when our parents grew up, it was a different landscape, and we were kind of brought up with that landscape in mind. And I would say it might be becoming less relevant than it was, say,
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing, like, he has a podcast called Ask Altucher. He just fields questions randomly from anybody. And somebody,
check that out.
Yeah. Somebody was asking about, they had a lot of debt, like credit card debt. This is a little different than student debt, but they had like a lot of credit card debt. And the guy was asking, like, I don't know what to do. He's like, I don't know if I should, like, just keep paying the minimum payments. He's like, I feel like I'm never getting out of this, and I'm just kind of stuck. And James's answer was pretty interesting, because he just said, he goes, yeah, just don't pay anything. He's like, just let it all go. He's like, here's what's going to happen.
Really?
And he gave the whole thing of like, here's what's going to happen. He's like, you're not going to pay it, and then they're going to send you a letter. And then they're going to send you another letter. And then he's like, and then your credit score is going to be, like, they're going to kill your credit. Like, your credit score is going to be like 500 or whatever. And then, but that's fine. He's like, you can live without having good credit. So he's like, he was saying, he's like, my credit is horrible. And I don't really even know what it is. But he's like, I've never had to use my credit.
Wow.
He was going through this whole process of what would happen if you just didn't pay. And it was like, I was kind of convinced at the end of the thing. I was like, yeah, I think that's a good option. I mean, it's...
Yeah, that's like a really out-of-the-box answer to the debt question.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when it goes to collections is my question.
Your credit gets damaged, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert at all, so I couldn't tell you. But I know that people survive all that stuff, and...
Yeah. You know what? I saw an interesting documentary about credit card debt. I forgot what it's called, but they basically talk about all these, they talk about all the, during the 2008 crash of the home crisis, they go into all the people who bought into that and all the bad loans that they sold to people, and then credit card debt and things like that. And I didn't see that as a solution, don't pay it. It's really crazy just watching it, how much people's debt controls their lives.
Yes, it is a measure of control, that for sure. I mean, quite literally, like you've gotten trapped. You're kind of like in a trap, right? Like,
yep.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've given this topic a lot of airtime, but so far, but like it's very true. I mean, we have a system that's set up to make you it's kind of cycle in itself. You enter the system and you become dependent on staying in the system once you're in it. Like you get a degree to get a job that pays well, but you accrued debt to get there, and now you get this job, but it's all going back to paying what got you that in the first place, and now you're kind of stuck in this cycle. Yeah, and I'll let you speak on it too, Justin, from your personal kind of, if you'd like, but that's kind of my vision, how I look at it, sort of in a way.
Yeah. It's definitely. It's definitely, you realize it is kind of a system. And you know what? You could talk to an anarchist too and say that this whole thing everything is a system, and the government, jobs are made by the government and things like that. And this whole thing is a big conspiracy. It's just been in existence for so long. It's a system that was bought into, ever since people stopped having to grow their own food, I guess, right? And it works, but you don't have to do the A, B, and C, like go to school, get into a lot of debt, work out that debt, buy a house, pay off that debt, and then be old,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you definitely don't have to. And I guess to circle things back to things we were talking about in the beginning of the episode, it's sort of like we can definitely go out and find the bad guys, say, screw the system, and find they're controlling us, all this stuff. You can do all that and fight these battles. Another way to do it is like we were talking before. Well, other ways we just try to make positive steps to construct it. So I guess for you, Justin, it's like, well, this is what it is, and it's like, you'll figure out, you'll do what you're doing. You're still pursuing things you love, and then find ways to still travel.
6 months, baby.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I mean, I think it's a matter of just moving forward instead of trying to find all the bad things. But at the same time, it's kind of like you learn lessons. Like you were asking me, Mike, earlier about being in Australia and reading that book and going, okay, now I got to, now I'm ready to change everything. And a lot of that is just kind of rejecting the societal norms and going, okay, this is the way I was totally brought up, and I thought it was going to be this way, but it's not. It doesn't work. Like the system as it is doesn't work, as we've been talking about. And so in every aspect, you got to question, okay, is this really the good thing, or is this just what everybody does because they think that's what they should do?
Right.
And if you can stop yourself from falling in that line, then you can have a lot more freedom and a lot more happiness in your life. And it's tough because a lot of times you have to go against what the mainstream is saying, what everybody's saying, and everyone around you is like, you're an idiot. But a lot of times it's the best thing.
That is the toughest part. Is to go against things that are like what I did. That was definitely the hardest part for me. Like to say my parents and my coworkers and friends, like, I'm just going to quit my job with no particular exact plan. I'm just going to go traveling. I have a one-way ticket to India. And they're just kind of like, you can't just do that. And I was like, well, it was hard to go through that, to really convince myself that I could, to go against what everyone's telling me and say, actually I can. It's really, really, really difficult to do that. But I think, like you're saying, Kevin, I think it's really important. At the same time, though, it's also not, the other side of it is not to just do things just because it's not to just go against society for the sake of going against it. It's really just finding what you want as an individual, whether or not it's with or against what society says. It's whatever the thing that's you as an individual. Do that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But
freedom.
Yeah. Well, back to freedom. Well, I think we've been going on for close to an hour now, so that's probably a good amount of time to record a podcast. Kevin, we're going to ask you a question that we ask all of our listeners in our show. And so I don't know if you have a closing question that you want to give us in turn from yours, but we usually ask our guests, what's something you would like to do in your life that you haven't done yet that you'd like to do before you die?
That's a good question. I got a lot of stuff.
What's your top one, or anyone?
Anyone. Your fourth one.
Can I give you two? I have to do one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to create my business so that I really don't have to think about money. Like it's not like I can do anything I want, and I don't even have expensive taste. Like I don't get off on like, owning a yacht, like it doesn't interest me, or anything, like cars or whatever. But just to the point where it's like, I'm not thinking, like I never think like, oh, I can't really, I don't have enough money for that. Like it's just, it's just everything I do is just like, oh, of course. Yeah. I'm just going to do that. Like that's, So I mean, that's really like that gives you that like one thing I noticed, like people say, oh, it's all about the freedom. It's not the money, but it really is kind of both, because you can have you can have a lot of freedom and be a backpacker and just staying in hostels that cost you like $7 a night or something. But you may really want other things, and you're like, that sucks. I can't do that because I don't have the money. So I think that there is a combination of freedom and money obviously buys you freedom to a certain extent. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I want to head with career, and then it allows you to relax. Like I noticed that, like I sold a house a couple of years ago, and I got a nice check from it, and I was like, I mean, the next few months, I just was so at ease about everything. It was like, because I knew I had it. Like,
sure.
I wasn't like, oh, I got to pay rent. It was like, no, of course I got to easily pay rent. It's not a big deal. So yeah, so that's really one of the things I want to do on a more like personal, I guess, level. I'd like to fall in love. So,
yeah.
so like that's something that I really want to do, and I don't really know what that looks like yet. So,
Yeah.
Right.
Can I ask you a personal question?
yeah,
How old are you, Kevin?
43.
You can do it. You will do it. My cousin, who is your age, just got married for the first time and found her online. Hey, man,
Yeah,
not to advertise. Match.com.
Do an affiliate link with them.
yeah. No, I've run the gamut with the online dating. I don't know if that's going to be.
Yeah,
something
it gets kind of boring after a while, or very mechanical. I've said in the past, it gets
Yeah.
very mechanical, automated. But
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that it what online dating in the past has done. I haven't done it in since last summer. It kind of like, I don't know. I think it takes, for me. I mean, it's all personal, but for me, it takes me out of like. I kind of rely a little bit too much on like, oh well, I've got like 4 girls that are I'm texting from online, and then I'm like kind of like not that motivated to do like real life meeting people.
Meet people in real life. Right?
It's So I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
you
it can
do
be.
both.
so
Well, that's a good point. You only have like so many hours in your day to devote towards like finding girls or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's you're using them online or in person. Yeah.
yeah.
I try to use all the tools at my I'll go out try to meet people in person, but I'm not opposed to. Well, nowadays I'm not like on any dating sites right now, but I use this app Hinge. It's kind of like Tinder also. Tinder's all prostitutes these days, but you match with a girl and it's like, hey, for 120 roses, you can hang out with me.
Yeah.
So Tinder is like, it's a cool concept, but it's kind of terrible in the way it's panned out. But Hinge is kind of like it, but seems to be higher quality. It's all through friends of yours and stuff.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very low, and it's nice because it's not a lot of effort to do like something like that versus making a whole profile and all this crap.
Yeah.
But
I think you said it before, no matter who it is, if you give them an opportunity and you are yourself and you put it out up front and say, like, I like to travel, I like to do a lot of these things, I'm looking for somebody who would not mind that, that's kind of, you put your deal out there and they respond back, I think you found a good match. So,
yeah,
That's right.
and I think the things I really relate to both of the things that you said, Kevin. Like I'd also, whether I meet her on Tinder or Hinge or Matched or in person, like the old-fashioned way, I'd love to fall in love as well. Maybe do that fantasy of doing a travel like longer-term trip with someone like that. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
And also setting up a business that's got some kind of where I don't have to. It's generating cash that give me the freedom, so I don't have to worry about it. Generate something, or even if it's not passive income, just have something that I really love that I'm doing that can support the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So my passion is my source of income.
Exactly.
Sweet.
Exactly. Yeah. So do you guys have anything? I'll just turn it around. Maybe really generic about it, but do you have any like 1 or 2 things that you want to do before you die?
Yeah. Well, those are mine, I guess. I just stole yours. But I think the general dream that's the dream is for me. It's like just finding that thing, like what to do with my time that I really enjoy. Like, and traveling was part of it. But then like when I'm stable, like what's the thing I want to be doing with my time that I really like love? And I'm still searching on exploring things. I'm exploring things I like doing and just trying to find that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'd like to be less sentimental and emotional and be more silly, and I would like to create a comedy music album, and I would like to do a one-man comedy show.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
That's it. I'm working on them.
Yeah.
I'll make a comedy album with you if you want. We can collaborate.
I would love to collaborate for a couple.
It might be easier if we're living in the same actual physical location though.
Technology.
I know you can do a podcast over Skype. Maybe we can do music over Skype too.
Yeah,
Why
you can
not?
pull that off.
I'll have Kevin do like a yo, this is Kevin. Like, do a shout out.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
Cool.
well, Kevin, thanks for coming on to
Yeah,
Walking
thank
the
you.
Earth. And we're really happy to have been part of Freedom Loving Podcast as well.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm glad you guys found me and we hooked up. I love the concept of your show and the way you guys run it. It's awesome.
Likewise. Yeah, likewise, man. So folks that want to find your show, you're on iTunes. That's where I got your show. Are you on like Stitcher, SoundCloud? What do you?
Yeah, I think I'm just iTunes and Stitcher and
iTunes and Stitcher.
freedomlovin.com. You can find me.
Cool. And you have a Twitter, Facebook?
Yeah, all the above. Yeah, you just go to the website and then you can click on
From freedomlovin.com.
Yep.
Okay, Lovin without the G.
Without the G, yeah.
Yeah, cool. And I guess for folks that are listening on your end that want to hear me and Justin talk to other travelers and all that good stuff, we're Walking the Earth Podcast. Yeah, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on SoundCloud, we're at facebook.com/Walking the Earth Podcast, and our Twitter handle is at WTE Podcast, but our website is where you can find all this information.
Which is WTEpodcast.com.
That is correct.
Yeah, and I love your picture on your iTunes.
Oh,
the little picture.
thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was from the desert in Rajasthan, India. A friend took that picture, and then another friend that I met in a hostel in Chiang Mai helped to actually, make it look good and like did the photoshopping and everything to make it look nice. So it came out really well. I was really happy with that. So thank you, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks. It was awesome talking to you, Kevin.
Yeah, really
so
great talking to you, Kevin.
Yeah, it was good. It was great talking to you guys, and good luck with your show. And I'm sure
Likewise.
we'll bump into each other again soon.
Awesome.
Thank you
All right,
for tuning in, folks. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Freedom Lovin' Podcast. To break free today, head on over to freedomlovin.com and download our free guide. 7 practical tips to living free in an unfree